My mother had waited for him, and he was now hooked on heroin. He saw his best friend get gutted alive while hanging from a tree in front of him. This is my mom, by the way. This is her. She was amazing. My mother had a very difficult life, but it also made her the most amazing, teacher. She was incredible. It was the biggest blessing was to have a mom like that. And
how would you kind of best explain the role she played in your life?
She would read to me always. She'd take me to museums. She'd take me to libraries. She was very loving, very affectionate, and never critical, never judged anybody, had very little, but would be the first one to take her coat off and give it to a homeless woman in the park, in Prospect Park. And yeah, she was incredible. My mother was very health conscious, so she would buy a huge bag of brown rice, a huge thing of oatmeal. She'd have kale. We'd have all those healthy, nutritious things, but it was a single mother working multiple jobs, and so yeah, we were, didn't have much. When we were walking to school, we'd walk across the street. She didn't want to go past the toy store or anything that she wouldn't be able to ever get. One time I remember I was to go to school, it was raining, and I said, "Mom, there's money." It was raining really hard, and I picked up a $20 bill off the street, but she thought it was just probably a penny and that we were late. And I remember when I pulled the 20 up, she saw it, and we both started jumping up and down and hugging each other, and we were so excited and so happy. And then that day when we came back from school, she walked me right to that toy store, and with the $20, I picked out a Spider-Man doll, I believe.
What did she do to make ends meet?
Worked multiple jobs, waitress, school teacher, and then she'd send me away the whole summer so she could work and do whatever. So I'd go to those like Camp Friendships, those programs where they take inner city kids and bring them up to this really pretty place. And there, I think also, now that I think about it, I was in those magic programs at summer camp when I was like 6, 7, 8.
You said she removed fear from you. How so?
I think when you just give a kid that much love and confidence, I think that helps.
I read somewhere that you were considering going to college, but then she got sick with ovarian cancer.
She wanted me to go, yeah. She always dreamed of me going, to a great school, but when she got sick with cancer, that wasn't an option. I wanted to just succeed so I could help take care of her and stuff like that, yeah.
What was it about what you read in her journals that impacted you kind of at the tail end of her life?
Her whole life is just, it's mind-blowing. Starting with her childhood, growing up the way she did. She grew up from a very wealthy Jewish Mafia family. Her great uncle he owned the Riviera. I think he was the first one of gambling in New Jersey. He was partners with Meyer Lansky. He had all of these casinos. And I think that kind of corrupt money, I think, set her on a mission of her own that she didn't want to be a part of that. And I think she left her family, left everything. She went from New York City to moving into Brooklyn after a suicide attempt when she was 18. And then she just tried to find meaning and just, like I said, became a school teacher, inner city kids, and social worker, and put herself through Brooklyn College at that point.
What were her concerns for you that you read in her journal in her remaining days?
I think her main concern was that I would always be alone, but that didn't happen. I have an amazing family. I have an incredible daughter.
How do you view your dad today?
My biological father, he overdosed on heroin and died, so I never really knew him. I knew he gave my mother a really tough time.
What did he say to her a few days before she's due with you?
When she told him that she was pregnant, he just disappeared. So she didn't see him until the day that I was born, and one of her friends said that my mom's having a tough time in the hospital, you should go say something, because she knew him. And he went to the hospital, looked at her, said, I don't love you anymore, I love another woman, goodbye. So, and my mother already had the craziest life to begin with. But because it was just me and her, she put everything, everything into her boy. So I just saw him every now and then. One time he was smoking and he burnt the apartment down. We had to run out of the house. And I was also in lots of fires growing up, by the way.
What was the situation where, and I found this remarkable, that you're a kid and there's a board between two windows,
yeah, it
10
wasn't
stories
exactly
up?
like he just threw me on it and said walk. I think he was holding me tightly, but I think he was teaching me, like, you don't need to have fear. But it might have worked. So maybe that whole psychology of him teaching me not to be afraid, because he was probably so traumatized and so afraid in war. It's sad that he had such a difficult life, but he was in Vietnam and he didn't sign up to go. He was drafted, and it's either you go to jail or you go to Vietnam. And I think the only way you get people to just point their guns and shoot people that for no reason is, in many cases, such as my biological father, they started taking AAA grade morphine, right? They would raid infirmaries, and then they got back to New York. My mother had waited for him, and he was now hooked on heroin, So I think it's tough.
And he saw some horrific stuff over there, right?
Yeah. He saw his best friend get gutted alive while hanging from a tree in front of him and things like that, so, yeah.
And would have these nightmares when he came back home?
Yep, horrific, yeah. And he would just react, and it became violent. So I don't know the details, obviously, but I've heard terrible stories.
You ran into him later in life.
Yeah, I've seen him a few times, and a cop called me, said, you're next of kin, your biological father is dead, he overdosed on heroin. And that was that.
What was your reaction?
I didn't know him very much, so my reaction was, I was protective of my mother. So, so when you have one side of a story, you don't really, the other side is, so, yeah.
But it still touches you.
I think he had a tough life, I knew him very little. I think I met him 3 or 4 times in my whole life.